Hello, my name is Arlen McFarlane and I'm the Curious Gardener. I'm here today with Heidi Marion and we're talking about soil and the subarctic garden.
We have a lot of sand and silt in our soil and not very much clay. So if you're going to put a positive spin on it, you'd say that our soil is incredibly well draining. Right off the get-go, we take a look at this and we see there's not really any organic matter in there. It's just sand and silt and that's it. When we look around us, we see all these trees growing, and they are growing not because of the nutrition in the soil. They're growing so big and beautiful because they're getting most of their nutrition from the air, out of thin air. Vegetables don't take, by and large, most of their nutrients out of thin air like that, so we have to help them along. It's pretty impressive then to think that we can go from this to the potatoes here. You know, we've been getting a really pretty good yield the first year out. We've been getting about 5 pounds of potatoes per plant. And that is because we added amendments, and it's because we added a lot of compost. Well, I have done soil analysis over the years and in the Whitehorse area, and I came up with a blend. So I've got 4 main ingredients in my blend. Blood meal, basically for nitrogen. There's rock phosphate, there's potassium sulfate, and magnesite, which is the magnesium source. This is the soil that has had a few yards of compost added, and just in this little area here, probably about 3 or 4 yards. And then it's been turned in. It's had the amendments put in.
This soil sticks together quite well. Is there a word for that?
Friability is a word that is often used with soil, and that does refer to the type of crumb that it has, the crumb size, the crumb structure. You can also wet up soil a bit more and see if there's any clay in it by rolling it. And I know that there's no clay in this soil, and no matter how wet it was, I'd never get, you know, like a little clay snake out of it or something like that. And that's pretty typical of Whitehorse area soil. And that is why the humus is so important that we get in our compost. It's doing the work of the clay, basically, that we don't have, which is to bind the soil together and to hold moisture and to hold all those soil organisms that make pore spaces, make air spaces in our soil that we also need. Your plants don't feed themselves, by and large. They do take some moisture by themselves from the ground and some nutrients, but mostly it's actually a soil life that's feeding your plants. So what you want to make sure is that you have lots of microbes. You want bacteria, you want fungi, you want worms if you got them, and anything that's in the soil breaks down the minerals, it breaks down the organic matter, and then it feeds it to your plants. It's almost like giving baby food to a baby. You got to blend it up first and then feed the plant.
How do you know if the soil is healthy?
You can just take a look at your garden. I mean, it's a bit hard at this time of the year to look at the leaves, but these are a couple of potato furrows, and I know that I've got a really good yield there. My carrots turned out pretty big, and I was pretty happy with them. They went in a little late. The rutabagas were not as big as I would have expected them to be, and then as I go back, things kind of get smaller and smaller until in the very back furrow there you can see the kale that is quite small, and something's happened where maybe I put more compost down here, maybe the amendments got down here more, maybe the soil was just more depleted from the beginning and just needs another treatment of amendments and compost.
Is it better to fertilize in the fall, in the spring, or both?
Fall is optimal, especially if you're going to do an amendment. The rock powders and the crushed rock have a whole season to freeze and thaw and freeze and thaw, and it breaks it apart and it makes it more available for the microbes to start working on in the spring.
So what do I need to know about overwintering my garden?
Overwintering your garden, you want to cover the soil. That's a main thing.
Here's a garden bed. We're going to let these leaves nourish the garden bed over the winter, and we're going to put some amendments on.
Yep, so I've got my amendment mix, and it's my Whitehorse blend, and I'm just going to sprinkle it right on. I've already weighed it out, so I know how much to put on here. It's about 2 pounds, 6 ounces per square yard.
Now we're going to add compost. Just upend it.
So this will get the amendments mixed down to a depth that will be accessible by the plant roots. And And the microbes will start working at them because microbes live at various depths. And of course I've added lots of worms. These leaves are going to protect the soil. They're going to protect the microbes that are in the soil. They're going to retain the water, and they're going to make sure that the nitrogen doesn't volatilize up into the atmosphere. That's what's one of the parts of the compost that we put in. We don't want to spread all this lovely compost on there only to have it volatilize, right? So we're really protecting the work that we've done by adding leaves here. So this is the end of my carrot harvest on this little furrow, and I've just been chopping and dropping, which for me is picking the carrot and leaving the greens.
Now next year, after the snow has melted, will these all be decomposed? Or
Yeah, they'll all be pretty rotted by then. Yeah.
So I don't really need to take all this stuff and put it in my compost. I could just leave it on the garden.
Yeah. Why take the extra step of putting it into the compost when this can be shelter and food for your microbes?
Because I didn't know. Thanks.
This is a little hawthorn tree. This is a collar to prevent rodents from chewing the bark.
So we're just going to put these in the burlap bags around? We're not going to loosen them out onto the soil?
No, you can just put it straight on the soil, but you know, I'm not going to be leaving leaves on this tree because I do have a rock mulch that I like here. The rock is going to keep the moisture in and suppress the weeds that might grow. This came from somewhere else, so there might be chickweed or grass starting to come up from the soil that was imported along with it. So I'm going to cover it with these. When the snow comes, I'm also going to shovel some snow onto it as well for insulation to protect the roots.
Time to go home and put my garden to bed. Thank you, Heidi Marion.
Thanks for coming out, Arlen.